on the basis of seniority? या चलता है क्या? It goes, it is there, then it is still followed till this date. So for example, I tell you related to civil services only. जैसे क्या होता है कि that you clear the exam, suppose that you have got 600 rank and then you got some other services like Indian Postal Services, suppose that you have got. Then so Indian Postal Services you got in 2024. Then in 2025 once again you have given exam and then you clear the exam, good rank, okay, you got the IAS. Then and moreover one of your friend, he cleared the exam for the first time in this year only, he also got the IAS. So who is senior, you or he? You will be senior because you have already served in one of the civil services earlier, postal services. So your grade पे दोनों लोग लबासना में जाओगे, ठीक है, तुम्हारा ग्रेड पे हाई होगा, उसका कम होगा. You getting it? ठीक है. So this seniority rule, it's all coming from that particular time, and it was a good rule, ठीक है, which was introduced by the Cornwallis. So that's how he made it confirm that promotions must happen on the basis of seniority. But Cornwallis के साथ एक problem था. What was the problem? That he considered Indians as highly corrupt. His experience might have been that some of the Indians were corrupt, but then his encounter might have been some corrupt with some corrupt Indians, but he generalized it. He gave a statement at that time that all the natives of Hindustan are corrupt. Then so this is too much, that you yourself is able to see your own company officials are highly corrupt. And then you are saying that all the natives of Hindustan are highly corrupt. And you are trying to change the scenario in your own company, but then you are doing a bigotry over here. Then that double speak, okay? What you call in the language of the sneer grower, doglapan, okay? So that is what actually. So this is what he did. But anyways, so this particular prejudice of the Cornwallis shaped one of the policy of the British. And what was that? Europeanization of the services. He officially laid down in 1793 that all the higher post in administration worth £500 annual salary will be held only by the British. It will not be given to the Indians. Then so this is the rule he has laid down, and it continued for a very longer period of time. So mention, you write, likho, the word civil was used to differentiate, the word civil was used to differentiate the revenue functions of the company its company with the military functions. Then so एक बार रुक जाओ, just 1 minute. Then so देखो मेरे को 700 क्लास चली है एंशिएंट इसके लिए, मॉडर्न के लिए 700 क्लासेस. पूछो क्यों? Every now and then you have such a, कुछ अपने मन से भी सोचो ना, that what is there. I can give reply to each and every question of yours, but it will kill time. But then I will also kill time. ठीक है? अब I'll reply. So question is that British East India Company was a private company, so how come British government was interfering so much in its international operations and functioning? So if any Indian private company would be operating in any part of the world, अभी के time से समझो, ठीक है? So obviously it will be operate on the rules of the government of India. Then if anything happens, suppose that if an Indian company, ठीक है, किसी का भी नाम ले लो, if it is operating in the UAE, suppose that if it is caught in some sort of muddle in the other country, take any example, suppose if it is caught in some sort of muddle in the Canada, so who will be defending that company? Indian government or वही company खुद ही defend करेगी? So it will be the Indian government. So that's why Indian government will interfere. And in fact the government will have to, private हो या government हो, ठीक है, but then government will have to create the rules. So for example that अभी आगे पढ़ोगे, since you have just started, so obviously anxiety is there, anxiety नहीं, enthusiasm is there. Then I appreciate it, but then थोड़ा सा मुझे भी scope दो कि ताकि इतने में हम खत्म कर सके. So now understand, have you heard about the corporate social responsibility? नहीं भी सुना होगा, मैं भी बता रहा हूँ, ठीक है. So what is corporate social responsibility? That it is that responsibility of the all the corporate sectors of India towards the society of India. Then and who framed this rule कि ये CSR सारी companies को करना है? Government of India. So some percentage of your profit you will have to give it to the social responsibility. Then some you can consider it as a taxes. Then so this rule has been created by the Indian government and all the private big companies will have to follow it. So obviously private ho ya nahi ho, you belong to a particular country and that country government has complete control on you. Then so that's how they will have to interfere when you are not performing well. And बहुत सिंपल सा लॉजिक है, ये सवाल पूछने से पहले एक काम करो कि जो पढ़ा है उसको इंटरकनेक्ट करो. हमने क्या बात की थी? किसने अलाउ किया सिर्फ एक कंपनी को जाने के लिए इंडिया में? हु अलाउड? ब्रिटिश मोनार्क. सो कल हुए 100 कंपनी को अलाउ कर दे. सो इफ द कंपनी विल बी माल फंक्शनिंग, सो हु विल बी रिस्पॉन्सिबल? ब्रिटिश मोनार्क विल बी रिस्पॉन्सिबल. देन दैट ओनली वन कंपनी इज अलाउड, दैट इज गिवन सो मच प्रिविलेज. देने के टाइम पे सब अच्छा है, ठीक है, बट क्वेश्चन पूछने के टाइम पे हम तो प्राइवेट कंपनी है. हरसिमरत मैं तुमको नहीं कह रहा हूं, बट देन दिस इज जनरल थिंग आई एम आस्किंग, ठीक है, दैट privilege देने के टाइम पे you get it from the government, but when government will ask you a question, so you are a private company. So I hope you are getting it. Then so it is the part and parcel, it is the part of the process itself that government will intervene. Private company में अभी एक बताओ, there was one bill, ठीक है, sexual misconduct at the workplace, ठीक है, who will create this rule? Government. Then so आज की डेट में कोई ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, वहां पे प्राइवेट है, वहां पे सेक्सुअल मिसकंडक्ट इज हैपनिंग विद द विमेन, सो विल नॉट गवर्नमेंट इंटरफेयर? गेटिंग इट? ठीक है, चलो. सो लेट्स गो टू द नेक्स्ट पार्ट. सो नाउ क्या लिखा था बताओ मुझे. मैं भूल गया ना, यही समझा रहा था इसी क्वेश्चन को, बट उसके अलावा मैं क्या बता रहा था? नहीं, मैं लिखवा रहा था, मैं कुछ समझा नहीं रहा था. समझा तो दिया मैंने. हाँ, सो कंपनी विद द मिलिट्री फंक्शंस. देन उसके बाद लिखो मेंशन दैट कोर्ट ऑफ डायरेक्टर्स had the right to appoint Indian civil servants, full stop. Then mention it often led to favoritism and nepotism in the appointments. Favoritism and nepotism in appointment. Then first next you write after it, in appointment. It further led to very huge level of corruption. In the company. Huge level of corruption in the company. Then आगे लिखो mention, change paragraph and then you write Cornwallis, and his timeline in India also you write 1785 to 93. Then mention Cornwallis is regarded as the creator of modern civil services in India. Then you mention he effectively banned private trade. And at the same time raised the salaries of Indian civil servants raised the salaries of Indian civil servants. Then mention, full stop. As such, they became highest paid civil servant. As such, they became highest paid civil servant in the world at that time. Paid civil servants in the world at that time. Okay? Then further you add after it. He also enforced promotions through seniority. Promotions through seniority. He also enforced promotions through seniority. In this way, he was able to minimize the corruption in the company. He was able to minimize the corruption in the company. फिर एक और इंफॉर्मेशन लिखो, पैराग्राफ चेंज करके लिखना. You write, Cornwallis was highly prejudiced. Cornwallis was highly prejudiced against Indians. Prejudiced against Indians. And he remarked that all the natives of Hindustan are corrupt. All the natives of Hindustan are corrupt. Then he led the Europeanization of civil services. He led Europeanization of civil services in India. Europeanization of civil services in India. Then mention further, Europeanization of civil services in India, whereby in 1793 it was officially laid down. That all the higher post in administration worth £500 annual salary, comma, will be held only by the Europeans. Then so now 1793 he is gone back. Then there were other governor generals like John Soar, then Wellesley, and after the Wellesley is Marquis of Hastings. But then Wellesley is the one whom we need to discuss, 1798 to 1805, and Wellesley को हमने पहले भी discuss किया है in subsidiary alliance system. So in regard to the civil services, Wellesley has taken a decision. And what was the decision? A civil servant training college in India. So inside the Fort William in Calcutta, he opened a civil servant training college. But then the court of directors were not happy with him. I think I mentioned that part also. You remember? Court of director क्यों नाराज थे with him? Remember, in Maratha episode we talked about. Second battle एक बार याद करो, ठीक है? Do you remember that second battle? And we mentioned that Peshwa, what was Peshwa Bajirao II. So he is the one who has fled to the Bombay and signed the subsidiary alliance system with the British, and then after British have attacked on the Pune to give the seat to the Peshwa. But then what has happened? Sindhyas have not accepted it. Okay? And Sindhyas did not accepted it. So not only Sindhyas fought with the British but also Holkars. Okay? And I mentioned, मुझे याद है मैंने क्या mention किया था class में, कि in this battle that Sindhyas have given a very brave fight to the British. और मैंने बोला था कि it's like a situation कि election है और कोई एक वोट से जीत गया. ठीक है? So it was that much close. Then, so this is what we mentioned. Now, and we also discussed that Holkars were not defeated in that war. The reason is Wellesley was called back to Britain. Why he was called back? Unnecessary. He was spending so much in the war, and then after there was a rise of Hitler in the France. अब देखो कनेक्ट करो, ठीक है? अभी भी हम लोग थोड़ी देर पहले पढ़ा था हमने चार्टर एक्ट ऑफ 1813, बैकग्राउंड, राइज ऑफ नेपोलियन इन yes, so France, and then his rise is threatening to Britain, so they needed to focus on Napoleon, not on the regional kingdoms. Then but then Wellesley has done hell lot of spending, so he was called back then, and that's why all, even his good decisions which were taken in India, it was also called off. Okay? And what was his good decision? This particular civil servant training college. Okay? So एक बार लिखो, Wellesley created a civil servant training college at Fort William, Calcutta. But his action was disapproved. Fort William, Calcutta, but his actions were disapproved by the court of directors. And they decided to create a new civil servant college at Haileybury in England. Which became functional from 1806. Done. So this is the initial scenario of the civil services that we needed to mention, and there would be further changes after the 1857. Okay? So not much changes are there till 1857. This is the structure which is going on. So let's have a look at the one last discussion for the today's class. Let's have a look at the police organization of the British. Okay? So mention police organization और police services also भी लिख सकते हो. ठीक है? So police services. So now when it comes to police services, so was it there in India इसके पहले, before the arrival of the British? And another thing, that what is the main work of the police organization? Main function of the police? Investigation, charge sheeting. ठीक है? Law and order. ठीक है? Yes, so simple word, law and order maintenance. ठीक है? So वो सब कुछ उसमें आएगा, but then you will have to say law and order function. So law and order function में कि जो भी law है, अभी we discuss IPC, CRPC, everything. So who will make it that this is enforced in the society? Police. ठीक है? So they will be executing those functions, and if anybody is violating, so then they will be arresting, they will be creating the order in the society. So that is law and order function. So now, if we say that police organization was initiated by the British, does it mean that there was no law and order administration in India previously? There was. Obviously there must be. ठीक है? बिना उसके तो होगा नहीं, society चलेगी नहीं. But then it was not a very organized way. So for understanding the British, let's go back to the medieval times. Then, and medieval may we need to start from the Mughals. Then, so during the Mughal period, there was no well-established organization of the law and order function. It was managed but in a ad hoc fashion. What is ad hoc fashion? कि हाँ मतलब contract based appointments, and then they were managing the law and order function. So for example, that zamindars were also interested with the law and order function. So zamindar जहाँ पे भी थे, जिस area में zamindari है, so zamindars were supposed to maintain the law and order. Then apart from it, in other areas where zamindari vyavastha is not there or zamindari system is not there, so where in those places there were some Mughal officers who were appointed to look after the law and order, and these Mughal officers were called as amils. ठीक है? So amils were generally revenue collector, ठीक है? But they had the law and order function. Then another post was the फौजदार. You have heard about it, ठीक है? So फौजदार. Then another post was village में जो सबसे important post होता था related to law and order, that was चौकीदार. ठीक है? So the word is coming from that, and in fact in the Mughal times there used to be a चौकीदारा tax also. ठीक है? चौकीदारा tax का मतलब ही होता था कि law and order function जो maintain कर रहा है उसको tax दोगे. ठीक है? So these were the people who were maintaining the law and order, but the सबसे problem वाला जगह was the जमींदारी. ठीक है? And अब ध्यान से समझना, जमींदारी institution was very strong in Bengal then, and it is from the Bengal the British rule has started. We all have seen, ठीक है? One of the initial place where it has started. So zamindars used to maintain, ध्यान से समझना कि zamindars को law and order function था, so they were maintaining थानेदार्स. ठीक है? So zamindars were maintaining some people for law and order function, and these people were known as thanedar. Then now these thanedars were the one who will be going to village, and then they will be maintaining law and order. But then very often in Bengal what has happened, that these thanedars, they were colluding with the dacoits. ठीक है? Colluding समझ रहे हो? That they are cooperating with the dacoits then, and they were giving free hands to dacoits in the night to loot the villages, and whenever dacoits were looting the villages, so they were sharing the loot amount with the dacoits. Cornwallis got to know it. Then he was very much aware about it, and what he did, that when he got the power to take the decisions, he relieved zamindars from law and order function. ठीक है? So it's not like that British have not done some good moves or they have not taken good decisions then. So this was one of the very important decisions of that time. So he relieved the zamindars from law and order function, and then he is the one who established police organization. ठीक है? So he established police organization. Moreover, how, what all things would be there. So a district was divided into, so suppose a district is there. So a district was divided into many circles. ठीक है? ये geometrical circle नहीं है. ठीक है? So circle is just a administrative name. ठीक है? And circle को हिंदी में क्या बोलते हैं? थाना. ठीक है? So this is थाना. Then so he created many circles, and circles were known in Hindi as thana, or in Indian language it was known as thana. And there was one Indian officer who was appointed as the head of the thana, and that guy was called as daroga. ठीक है? So he was the in charge of the thana, and moreover at the district level he is the one who created the post of superintendent of police, SP. ठीक है? So this is the beginning of the police organization. So लिखो, mention, you write. Before the British rule in India, law and order function was not highly organized. Then mention. In zamindari areas, zamindars were given the task of, or zamindars were entrusted, likho. Zamindars were entrusted, entrusted, entrusted with the function of law and order. Zamindars were entrusted with the function of law and order. Law and order, full stop. And in the other areas, there were many officers there were many officers to handle law and order. To handle law and order. For example, Faujdaars, Amils, Chaukidars, etc. Chaukidars, etc. Then mention further. Paragraph, in the same one you write after full stop, mention. It often led to challenging situations and many a times. So I'm using a word which generally I avoid in the beginning, but likh lo, anyways it will be helpful. Challenge, what you have written, what is the last one? Just let me see. It often led to challenging situations and many a times dereliction of duty. Dereliction, I am writing spelling, you can see. Dereliction of duty. What does it mean? Dereliction of duty meaning that जो काम मिला है उसको ढंग से नहीं करना. That is a dereliction of duty. हिंदी में एक जो सही वर्ड इसके लिए यूज करोगे तो that is called as आनाकानी. Have you heard about it? So, meaning that the work that you have been interested with, you are not doing it properly. In fact, you are misdoing it. That is also the meaning of this particular word, dereliction of duty. Then mention, a paragraph change karo, and then you write, when Cornwallis came to power, he relieved zamindars from law and order function. He relieved zamindars from law and order function. Then mention. He created the modern police organization. He created the modern police organization for the purpose. Full stop. Districts were divided into many circles. Districts were divided into many circles known as Thana. Districts were divided into many circles known as Thana. An Indian person was appointed as in charge of Thana. Indian person was appointed as in charge of Thana, and he was known as Daroga. Full stop. At the district level, he created office of SP. Or superintendent of police. So this is how the beginning was made for the police organization. Okay? So now we're left with the army and the judicial organization, but I'm not going ahead with that. So next class I'll tell you that what all things we are going to do. So we'll have a little bit of discussion on the land revenue settlements, and then we'll move to the 1857 revolt. Okay? So 1857 revolt marks the half of the course and then remains the half of the course. Okay? So बीच में socio-religious reform भी पढ़ता है. But since it is not something related to the basics, so socio-religious reform you'll be doing in the foundation. Okay? And then we'll start with the 1857 खत्म होने के बाद विल स्टार्ट विद द फ्रीडम स्ट्रगल, ठीक है। सो फाउंडेशन ऑफ द कांग्रेस एंड दीज ऑल स्टाफ, ठीक है। चलो, थैंक यू, गुड नाइट।